Hey guys, in this video, we will learn more about the syntax in Python programming, and we will also learn about comments. So what is syntax? Syntax refers to the grammar when writing a computer program. It's how you go about writing the program. And when the syntax is incorrect, then your program does not run. So I'm using the word grammar because if I speak to you and my grammar is incorrect, then it becomes difficult for you to understand what I am telling you. So similarly, in a computer program, the syntax has to be perfect for the computer to execute the commands. Let's look at an example. So if you want to display any message, we use the print statement. And we use brackets, and between quotes, we have our message. And if we have the correct syntax, as is the case here, then you will get the message, hello world, that will be displayed. But in this example, you will see now that we are using a capital letter P, which seems to be a minor change. Everything else remains the same. But to the computer, that capital letter P means incorrect syntax, and as a result, this will result in an error. The program will not compile and run, and you will not get any output. So it's really critical that the syntax must be correct if you want your program to run. Another aspect of the syntax is case sensitive. When you are writing your statements, as I've just indicated, you can have print, which is what is used if you want to display. And then if you have print with a capital letter P, or if you have print all in uppercase, these are seen as being different. All of these are different to the computer. As much as when we read it as being the same word, but when it is interpreted by the computer, it is interpreted as three different statements. So Python is case sensitive. When you are using words, reserved words, keywords, these must be written in a specific way for the computer to understand what is required. In this case, we have reserved words. Reserved words have a very specific purpose. They have a specific purpose and they perform some function. So you cannot use it for any other use except for what it is defined to be used for. For example, you have an if statement, and then with the if statement, you can have an else. Then we have the for and the while, which is used for repetition. You will be exposed to these statements a bit later in the course, but these are reserved words and they have to be used in this way and cannot be used for any other purpose. Return is also a reserved word. The next part of syntax deals with indentation. Indentation refers to the spacing at the beginning of a line or code. So if we look at this particular slide, you will see that there's a margin, and this is called the indent. So that is an indent. So in Python, indenting is very important. Unlike many other programming languages where you can indent, and through indentation, it helps to make the code more readable. In most other programming languages, indenting does not affect the syntax. But in Python, indentation is very important. If your indenting is incorrect, then the syntax will be seen as being incorrect and the program will not run. So why is this indenting important? Because through indentation, Python creates blocks of code. So whenever you indent, there's a new block that is being created for that particular set of code, which you will see as we progress through the course. Just some examples. When we start writing sequential statements, so sequential means these statements are one after the other, you'll notice that they are all on one indent. So that's the line spacing, and this is correct indentation. You won't have any problems with that. But if you now look at this example, that's one indent, and then you're creating a second indent. Now this is going to create a problem, and this is incorrect in Python, and it will not run or execute this particular code. So when you are writing your sequential code, which is what we're going to be starting with, you could have many statements, and as long as it's sequential, then the statements need to be one below the other. So keep in mind that indentation plays an important role when you're working with the syntax in Python. Let's now look at the concept of comments. Now, comments, these are ignored. These are ignored by the computer, by the compiler of the computer. Comments are put into place for the benefit of the programmer. So whenever there is a comment in your program, the compiler or the computer ignores it immediately. That line is not interpreted. So when we make use of comments, they are used mainly for the benefit of the programmer. That is why we make use of comments. Through the use of these comments, it can explain certain parts of the programming code that you are using. So a programmer may want to just document it as part of a comment so that if he comes back to the code at a much later stage, he understands what's going on in the code by reading the comment. And through the use of comments, as I've just indicated, it makes it more readable. So comments play an important role, not for the computer in terms of the execution of the program, but more for the programmer who's writing the program and for him to understand things better in the program. Some examples of comments. Whenever you're using a comment, you always start with the hash. This is called the hash. So all comments start with that. And whenever the compiler, the computer finds the hash sign, whatever is there found thereafter, that is ignored by the computer. So immediately we see this is a comment, and the comment is just saying display hello world. So it's telling you what it's doing. And this statement is ignored. And this is the statement that the computer will execute. You can write a comment in a different way, where the comment now is placed after the statement. So everything thereafter is ignored. If we look at the next comment, it could happen sometimes we write a particular statement in Python, but we want to block it out temporarily, but we don't want to remove it totally. So you can block out a statement and place it as a comment. So this particular statement is a statement that is used in Python to display. It's going to display hello world, and then this will be ignored because it's a comment, and how are you will be printed. And if you want to write multiple comments on different lines, then each line will need its own hash symbol to denote that each of these lines are comments. And the line that needs to be interpreted or executed will be the print hello world. You will notice that in the previous video, when I used the print statement, right, that's a small letter P, print, I used single quotes and I said, hello world, which was my message. You will notice here I'm using double quotes. When you want to display messages, you can either display the message by saying print with single quotes, or you can use print with double quotes. And both will work. So don't create any confusion there. Why are we using double quotes in this video, but in the previous one we used single quotes? Both will work in exactly the same way. But just to reiterate that when we're using comments, comments are for the benefit of the programmer. They are ignored by the computer, and they explain something that is being done in the code that you are using. I hope this video helps you to better understand the concept of syntax and to also understand how comments work.